So it's been like 11 months since my last team building guide for beginners, and yeah, that changes with this video as you see by the title. Team building is a pretty daunting thing for any game, for any new player, because there are just so many characters to choose from and so many game modes to play that it can be a little confusing on what you're supposed to use and when. And while the reality is that it is actually very simple, it's not simple if you're new, and that's why I am here. Do understand that this video is going to be geared towards newer players, returning players, or people that just aren't super duper late in the game, so if the knowledge is a little simple or dumbed down, that may be why. Let's be honest, I'm probably still going to yap a lot anyway, so yeah, don't worry, you will get ample knowledge. I will be covering pretty much every single game mode that a new player would need to play: the story mode, the seasoning dungeons, the infinite labyrinth, the glass labyrinth, even tower relay, and I will touch upon other modes like champion raids and arena, but those are not important if you are a new player. Just know if there is a game mode that you need to play as a new player, I will make sure to provide you a team or teams or cookies for it. Anywho, let's get started. Starting with the good old story mode, you really don't need to actually build a team for this. Okay, let me clarify. You do not need to build a specific team to beat the story mode. The story mode in Tower of Adventures is very easy to beat with the lowest rarity cookies, but that is not helpful. So what you should be aiming for in these teams is a fighter cookie, a tagger cookie, and a support cookie. In case you weren't aware, in Tower of Adventures there are 3 classes: fighters, taggers, and supports. Each of them are very important for a team composition and will make your life so much easier. Now on screen you see this water element comp. You actually get this team for free by just playing the story. You have Cream Soda, who is going to be your main DPS and your fighter. You have Gumball, who is going to be your tagger slash sub DPS slash debuffer, and then you have Rockstar, who is going to be your buffer and your support and also a healer. I'm highlighting this team because the game gives you all 3 of these cookies and their unique weapons for free by just completing the story, which is very good. This is a team that you as a new player will have, and this will be able to carry you through the entire story without any difficulty. I can't speak today, guys. Obviously, you are not restricted to this team comp. Another cookie that I would highly recommend is going to be Cherry Cookie, who you get for free. She is the second cookie you get, and she is actually insane. The reason why I highly recommend Cherry is that she has very high burst damage, very high AoE, and is also a tagger, and honestly, taggers are very strong when used properly. Also, the fact that she has high burst damage and a lot of the enemies in story mode are weak enemies that can be bursted down makes her very strong. But to be honest, in Tower of Adventures, as long as you aren't running like 3 supports, you should be fine with really any team composition. And if you do have a proper team and you are still losing, it might just be that you are under leveled and you need to level your team up, because again, that can always be an issue. So yeah, story mode, you can beat this with literally anything as long as you have a somewhat okay comp and as long as your team is actually leveled up and geared properly. Moving on, we have the seasoning dungeons, which are going to be a primary game mode for getting resources to progress your account. You have your XP potions, your coins, which are used for literally everything, and then your Ascensionite to ascend cookies. Now this is a game mode that requires you to do a lot of damage in a short period of time to get that sweet S+ rank. And by doing this, we are going to be matching the recommended elements of water, wind, and light. Now the game flat out hands you a water team that excels in doing damage really quickly, like really bursty damage really quickly, with Cream Soda, Gumball, and Rockstar. So this is honestly the team that I would just recommend you building and sticking with for this game mode. But you do have some other substitutes, like you can substitute out Cream Soda for Ice Mint, but Cream Soda is free, so I don't know why you would do that. And you could also substitute Gumball out for Sonic Water because he is the current banner character. But honestly, Gumball will work more than fine. Now looking at the other elements, we are going to be trying to keep the core team composition of a fighter, tagger, and support. So keeping that in mind, moving on to wind, the 2 fighters you can use for this are going to be Basil Pesto and Rye. Basil Pesto is better at AoE scenarios, so he might not be as good for this, but he's still a solid fighter nonetheless. And for Rye, she excels in single target scenarios and has really high burst damage, so she honestly is probably the better option, but it just depends on which one you want to use and which one you have. As for your tagger, you have 2 options. Plantain is going to be the better premium option. He is an epic. You might not have him. but he has really high burst damage on his special skill, and he also reduces enemies' wind resistance, making it easier for your DPS to kill the enemy, or the boss thing that you need to kill to complete it. But if you don't have him, you can use Ninja, who, while he does not have the debuffing capabilities, he is still a wind tagger that will help your DPS do more damage. For supports, you only have one option, Green Bell. While you have Chamomile, Chamomile just heals and does not actually buff, making her kinda useless for this. But Green Bell, good buffer. Moving on to Light, your only option is going to be Lemon Zest. He has high burst damage, good AoE, and just attacks really fast and kill an enemy really fast. Sugar Globe exists, but she is very slow, very clunky, and honestly might not be the best for this game mode, but she could work if you want her to. For taggers, you have one option, Wizard, Light Tagger, debuffs enemies to make them take more light damage. He's pretty solid, but you might not have him because he is an epic. For supports, you have a few options. Lemon is going to be your best option, increases light damage, increases crit rate, or not crit rate, increases crit damage, and is just overall very solid for light teams. You could also use Pistachio, who can shield and at one of her higher promotions can buff, and she's alright, she exists. Finally, you have Angel. They exist, don't really buff. They can buff, but they take on field time to do that, and you don't necessarily want that, so yeah. All in all, I would stick with this team to beat it. While I did give you other options, you are going to have this team, and this team is going to work very well for you, so yes. The only part that is really replaceable in this team is going to be Cream Soda with Ice Mint specifically, Gumball with Sonic Water specifically, so yes. Moving on to the Hangster Hideout, this is actually a more complex mode that actually has a lot of options. Looking at it, your options for elements are Fire, Earth, and Dark. There are a few exceptions though that I will talk about. Starting off, I will be talking about the taggers because there's a lot of taggers that happen to be very good for this game mode. Cherry, Alchemist, and Mallow Sauce are all low rarity taggers that are very strong. They all have good AoE, good off-field damage, good burst damage, and are going to be good for clearing those enemies really fast whether they are on the field or not. You can also use Twisted Donut, but he's not going to be as good due to the fact that he has no AoE, but he still does have that off damage or off-field damage component that makes them so good. Now you can actually beat that mode with just those rare taggers that I named, which is kind of crazy, but for some higher rarity options, you really only have two that I would recommend, Candy Drop and Plantain. Candy Drop is a universal debuffer. She debuffs enemies' defense, which is very good. Every cookie can utilize that. She also has good AoE damage with her special skill and has off-field damage with her ultimate. Plantain, while not matching the type, has high burst damage on his special skill, and his ultimate can actually group up enemies together, which is very good for taking them all out at once. For low tier DPS, your only two options are going to be Gingerbrave and Werewolf. I would actually recommend just using taggers over these two because they're both melee and they lack true AoE. Werewolf might actually be kinda useful. If you really like him, you could probably use him effectively, but yeah. Moving on to epic fighters, these three on screen are going to be the best options, but there are others that I will cover after. Jalapeno and Strawberry Mochi are going to be both fire cookies that are very good. Both of them have good range, high damage, and they attack a lot. Strawberry Mochi has the benefit of actually having mobility. Jalapeno Cookie has the benefit of having piercing attacks, so she can attack multiple enemies with the same attack. Both are very strong, and honestly, if you use these two together, you will also probably do really good. Basil Pesto, though while not matching the element, has really high AoE damage and is very good for defeating waves of enemies, so he actually has a huge benefit here. Some other fighters that I recommend that might not necessarily be on element, Cream Soda, you are probably going to have her built if you are really smart. Good burst damage, pretty decent AoE, okay-ish mobility with the special skills, and plus you are going to have her unique anyway, so she is going to be very strong. Ice Mint has high AoE damage, so that just makes him pretty good for any AoE scenario. Lemon Zest has really high burst damage on his ultimate and has a lot of really fast rapid attacks, making him also pretty decent. Finally, these three are okay and could probably work, but they are not as good. Kohlrabi lacks AoE, and he kind of just lacks other characteristics of the other good DPS, but he can definitely be used because he's dark. Dark Choco has no sustain damage and is only burst damage, but there are bigger enemies you need to beat, which he can definitely do. And finally, Chili Pepper is actually pretty decent, but I would not recommend building her because she is kind of the worst DPS in the game, but she's okay for this. Finally, for supports, I would recommend these three specifically. All three of them have buffs that stay on field, and yeah, just if you want a buffer, use one of these three. But you don't need a buffer for this game mode. That's what's great. You don't need a buffer. So yeah, I know that was probably a lot, but honestly, if you just run these three taggers on screen, you can probably beat it. But you do have a lot more options in case you don't want to build any of them, which You probably will have to eventually, but that's okay. We'll get there eventually. Anywho, let's move on to the next seasoning dungeon. Finally, we have the Ascensionite mine. I'm not going over each of these individually. Each of these Ascensionite mines has their own respective weaknesses that you need to adhere to because there are enemies that only take damage or only take a lot of damage from the specific element they are weak to. For the fire one, you got water and fire ones. For the water one, you got water and light ones. For the wind one, you got wind and fire ones. For the earth one, you got earth and wind ones. For the light one, you got light and dark ones. And for the dark one, you got dark and earth ones. My big tip for this game mode is make sure you have a damaging cookie for each of the elements. By damaging cookie, I mean a fighter and a tagger, and honestly, that is good enough. So for example, for water and fire, I could just get away with running cherry, cream soda, and then someone like Rockstar, or even someone like Gumball or Malasauce. But what matters is that I have 2 cookies that match these 2 elements that do damage. Unlike the other ones, I'm not going to sit here and go through every single option and every single combo for every single one. But for example, for the water and light one, you could use something like cream soda and then lemon zest, who is free. You could also use pistachio or angel. For the wind one, you can use someone like ninja, who you are going to have, and then use cherry. But you could also use someone like plantain or basil pesto or rye cookie, who you may or may not have. For the earth one, again, you can use ninja. You can also use the aforementioned basil pesto or rye cookie or plantain. But then you could also use someone like twisted donut or ginger brave or candy drop or sting durian, just someone that does damage that is earth. For light and dark, again, you can use someone like lemon zest or someone like pistachio. And then for dark, you could use werewolf or alchemist or marbleberry or dark choco or kohlrabi. You have a lot of options. Just make sure they do damage, and that's fine. For this one, again, you got your kohlrabi, you got your dark choco, you got your marbleberry, your alchemist, or that's werewolf. For earth, we already talked about it. You got ginger brave and twisted donut, and you got her name and sting durian. Just make sure you have 2 characters that match the elements that actually do damage. That is all. Your third element can be your third cookie can be literally whatever. It can be a buffer. It could just be another DPS. It does not matter. These are not super difficult. So yeah, there's your guide to seasoning dungeons. Let's move on. Now, the next important game mode is going to be the Labyrinth of Remembrance. For this one, this is like your Memory of Chaos, your Spiral Abyss, your game mode that is locked to a time and you need to defeat it as fast as possible and earn a certain score. That's what this is. For this one, my advice is going to be the same as the Ascensionite mines. Just try and match cookies to those elements. Actually, you need to match the cookies with the elements. So for this one, fire and earth, use cherry, Malasauce, twisted donut, boom bam bop, you got a team. Obviously, you don't have to use them specifically. You could use strawberry mochi, you could use jalapeno, you could use candy drop. You can throw a peach in there if you want to. You can eat the peach. I don't really care what you do with the peach. You can use someone like ginger brave. Just make sure your team matches that element. Same thing for all of them. For the wind one, you can use something like basil pesto, and rye, and plantain. Why not? You don't actually have to use a cookie of every single element for this one specifically, because that's just limiting you to what you can use. But you could use an all wind team if you want, like this all wind team. You could use this and beat it, but you again have options. You could use lemon zest here. You could use lemon. You can use don't use Sugar Globe. Sorry if you like her, don't use her. She's not good for this. You could use Blizzard here. Again, you have options. This one, water and dark. You have your standard water team that's gonna work perfectly fine. You could also throw in an ice mint. You can also use Sonic Water if you really want. Rockstar for the buffs. Again, you have options. For dark, you got kohlrabi. You have dark choco. You could use blackberry, to be honest, if you really want. She sometimes is used. Marbleberry is good, high burst damage. Alchemist is good, sustained damage. If you don't have a dark fighter and you want to use a dark fighter, you can use werewolf. Now, it does get a little tricky in these higher stages because it does require you to have multiple teams built, but that's okay. You will get there eventually. Now, if you happen to actually fully beat the Labyrinth of Remembrance, you get the Infinite Labyrinth, which is the repeating version of this game mode. My advice for this: look at the leaderboards and copy their teams for every single one of them. Do that. If the game gives you an easy way to obtain a team, make sure you do that, because for this week, this is the best team for this specific round. And because this changes every single week, there is never going to be one team that is always good. So yeah. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if I don't have a cookie for that? You can just substitute it. Will it be as good? No, but it doesn't matter. Like, say I don't have blackberry. For this one, you can just throw in Twisted Donut and it won't be as good, but it could work. You could also use someone like Marbleberry, or you could even use the emo, the other emo. You know, you have options. For this, if you don't have Peach, you could just use Rockstar instead. For this one, if you don't have Green Bell, you could just use someone like Basil Pesto, or you could even use Lemon Zest or Lemon. Again, you gotta learn to get creative and just know that you can just slot in a character if you don't have them. So for the Infinite Labyrinth, make sure you're copying these leaderboard teams, because there is no one piece of advice I can give, because it does change every single week. And the leaderboards are typically going to give you the best teams because, well, they didn't get #1 with a different team because this is the team it shows. So this honestly might not be the advice you want, but that's what I do, and it's what a lot of other people do. But sometimes you will have to substitute out a cookie or two if you just don't have them leveled up or don't like using them. The same thing can actually kind of apply to Tower Relay, which is the next game mode. So Tower Relay is a little interesting because it is a little different than the other game modes, but you can just copy leaderboard teams. Copying leaderboard teams is perfectly okay. I mean, yeah, these should give you a good enough idea. Like, you have your all earth team, you have your all dark team, you have your all wind team, you have your all fire team, your all light team. But there are some teams that do require something a little more different. Like with here, you want to use Cherry instead of Gumball or Sonic Water. And you know, that just means, again, you have options. But for this game mode, the teams that are going to be the best are going to be, like I said, the mono element teams, just because their buffs and damage all work together. So something like this is going to be a pretty good team, but you could also do something like, oh, where is it? But you could also do something like Cream Soda, Cherry, and then Rockstar. Like, Tower Relay is a very different mode because it's just about destroying 2 waves of enemies as fast as you can, then moving on to the next stage. But generally, you want to stick with one element. So for the, like, if I want to use Lemon Zest, I want to use Wizard, and then I want to use Lemon with him, right? The earlier stages of this are really not all that difficult and really don't require super duper precise team building, but you do need to have good enough teams to where you are able to beat it to actually get to the extreme mode. So yes, it's not just as simple as throw whatever you want together and it'll work. No, that's not going to work for this. It is going to require you to have a fighter, it is going to require you to have a attacker, and it will require you to have a support. Something like, where is it? Something even like this could probably work, right? You have your fighter, you have your tagger, you have your debuffing support. Just as long as you keep this core, you're going to be fine, especially if they all match elements. And to be honest, right here, this team that you will have, if you play the game at all, will be good enough to clear probably most of these early stages. And even if you do somehow need a second team, if you are engaging with the gacha mechanic, you are going to have some other cookies that you can use. So from there, just look at your pool of cookies, look at what fighters you have, put a fighter on there, see if you have a tagger that matches that element. So say I have Lemon Zest. Do I have Wizard? Cool. Do I have Lemon? If I don't have Lemon, then I can just use someone like Honey Bear or Blackberry or something else, right? Again, it's all about looking at what you have and then proceeding to use that. Now, very briefly touching on Mirage Hunt, for a lot of these, you are going to have to adhere to a mono element team. So for this one, it restricts you to water and dark cookies only. You're just going to want to run a team that matches each role with each element. So for this one, I want a water fighter, water tagger, water support. Any of them will work that are currently in the game. There is really no specific thing that you have to do, like, yeah, as you've probably picked up on now. So for any of them, if it recommends 2 elements, or if it has 2 elements, just match all 3 of your cookies with that element. But if you're missing a cookie for like one of them, like say I don't have a Wizard, for this one I can get away with just using Lemon Zest, Lemon, and then like Plantain or Ninja, and it'll probably be fine for the lower power ones. But that's really all the advice I have for this one. There are so many, I cannot give a team for all of them. I just cannot. Gotta use your brain a little bit. Champion raids, don't worry about this. If you're a new or returning player, you probably physically can't play it yet. And if you do, you can look at the elemental rankings, go to the leaderboard, go to the leaderboard, and then just look at what the top players are using, and that'll determine who or what kinds of cookies you want to play with. That's available for whatever 2 elements are active at the current time, and then, you know, as the season goes on, more elements will be put on the leaderboard. So that's like the general indication you can use. Finally, for Tower Arena, this would require its own separate video, but also if you are a new player, do not play this game mode at all. Do not play it. Probably not what you wanted to hear, but this is not a beginner friendly game mode, and you will not have have fun if you attempt to play this game mode. Team building in this does require a lot more knowledge because there are a lot of element specific buffs and weapon type specific buffs, and there's a lot of different buffs out there, and there's a lot of different team compositions for this, and that would require its own separate video, which I might make in the future. But yeah, avoid this mode if you're a new player. I know you can play it, but I would stay away from it. Also, surprise mention for guild battles. For guild battles, there will be videos on YouTube for specific strategies to follow, and I would honestly just recommend looking at those because guild battles are more of an in-game thing, and as a newer player, you probably won't be able to effectively participate in them, but in case you want to, these change every single season, so just find a video on YouTube that has the teams or the strategy that you're looking for, and that will be best for you. Anyways, there's your team building guide. The most important thing for progressing in Tower of Adventures is just playing the game. And as you play the game, you will get more characters, you will build your team, you'll get more equipment, more artifacts, and you will just progress. Do you understand? You absolutely do not have to follow what I said, but my advice will make it a little bit easier to progress a little bit quicker. And if you're watching this video, I assume that is what you want. For the things like seasoning dungeons, I did try to provide as many cookies as possible as I could, just to give you a lot of options, while also still trying to clarify that there are definitely better options over others. But anyways, I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, like and subscribe would be very appreciated, and I will see you all in the next video.